Welcome back, deep divers. We're diving into a topic that sparked so much curiosity in you. Female orgasm.
And what an amazing collection of research and stories you sent in.
Seriously, it's awesome. Academic studies, personal experiences, expert opinions, the whole shebang. So
It really shows how much you all want to understand this.
it does, and that's what we're here for. We're going to debunk some myths, get to the heart of it all, and hopefully you walk away feeling empowered.
That's the goal. And looking at what you sent, one thing's for sure, the clitoris is, well, kind of a big deal.
Okay, I knew that, but tell me more. Like, break it down.
Research shows that 80, even 90% of women need clitoral stimulation to orgasm. That's a huge majority.
Wow, so much for penetration being the magic key, huh?
Yeah, less than a third of women consistently climax from that alone. Science is pretty clear on this.
So this ideal of penetration being the way to go for women.
It's a myth. Sadly, one that stuck around thanks to, well, cultural ideas and not really understanding female anatomy.
Makes sense. The clitoris is like literally the pleasure center for most women,
You
right?
get it. And its location.
Yeah.
Well, it makes it less likely to get fully stimulated during intercourse.
Ah, okay. But what about the G-spot? Doesn't that play a role in orgasms from penetration?
The G-spot, or really the vestibular bulbs, they're definitely involved. Packed with nerve endings, can definitely contribute to pleasure.
But not a guaranteed orgasm ticket.
Right. And this is where non-concordance comes in. Basically, a woman's body might be physically responding,
That
but
mind's not into it.
exactly.
That's a really important distinction. So even if there's physical sensation, a woman might not be feeling aroused or actually enjoying it.
Absolutely. Context is huge G. Psychological and emotional factors, they play a massive role in whether a woman reaches orgasm.
We're talking beyond just mood here, right?
Way beyond. Stress levels, relationships, past experiences, even how a woman feels about her feelings. All of it matters.
Oh, feelings about feelings.
Researchers call it meta-emotions. And one of the sources you sent, it tells a story about a woman who, get this, orgasmed during an exercise class.
During a workout, that's wild.
Right. But here's the kicker. She didn't enjoy it.
So her body reacted, but her mind was totally somewhere else.
Exactly. That's how powerful context can be. Another interesting example is the sock study.
Sock study. Now I'm intrigued.
Basically, researchers found that women were more likely to orgasm in a lab setting if they wore socks.
Hold on. Seriously, how do socks even play into this?
It does seem odd, but the researchers think maybe the participants had cold feet, and that was actually messing with their arousal.
So something as simple as foot temperature could affect a woman's ability to orgasm. That's fascinating.
It shows how interconnected everything is, and it brings up another big question. What about desire itself? For women, is it spontaneous, or is there more to it?
That's a great question, one I've definitely wondered about. What did the sources say?
Well, they challenge this idea that spontaneous desire is the norm for women. They introduce this concept of responsive desire, where desire comes up in response to, say, stimulation or a specific situation.
So not necessarily wanting sex out of the blue, but more about feeling desire in the moment.
Exactly. And this is so important because so many women feel pressured to experience that spontaneous desire. And if they don't, they think something's wrong with them.
It's like there's this script telling women how they should feel about sex.
You hit the nail on the head. It's called the sexual script. These cultural ideas about what's normal or ideal for women when it comes to sex.
And I imagine these scripts can really impact a woman's experience.
They really can. Unrealistic expectations, shame, self-doubt, the whole 9 yards. One story you sent was from a woman who she learned about sex from watching porn. When real life was different, she was shocked.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that. It's easy to internalize those messages without even realizing it.
It's almost like we have this little judge in our brain, constantly comparing our experiences to those cultural norms.
And that kind of judgment can really ruin the mood.
It creates this negative feedback loop. If a woman's feeling ashamed or frustrated because she's not meeting those standards, well, that can actually make it harder to get aroused and enjoy herself.
Makes sense. So how do we break free from these scripts and create a healthier relationship with our sexuality?
The sources offer some great tools, and it all boils down to self-acceptance and shifting our focus.
I'm all ears. Give me the highlights.
Mindfulness is a big one.
Mindfulness. We hear that word a lot these days. What's it mean in this context?
Here, it's about paying attention to your body's sensations without judging them, not getting caught up in thoughts or expectations.
So instead of focusing on the goal of orgasm, you're just being present with what you're feeling in the moment.
That's it. It's about being in your body, allowing yourself to experience pleasure without that inner critic.
That sounds pretty freeing. What else did the sources suggest?
Emotion coaching. This is about letting yourself feel those uncomfortable emotions, shame, frustration, anxiety, without getting trapped by them.
So, not ignoring those feelings, but letting them run their course.
Exactly. Emotions are like waves, they rise and fall. By feeling them fully, you can actually prevent them from building up and blocking you from pleasure.
That's a helpful way to look at it. Any other game changers?
Shifting the goal itself. Instead of aiming solely for orgasm, the goal becomes experiencing pleasure and connection.
That's a great distinction. Takes the pressure off and lets you explore what feels good without judgment.
Absolutely. And lastly, the sources highlight the importance of creating a sex-positive context.
Setting the mood, being open with your partner, maybe even bringing in some fun toys.
It's about creating an environment where you feel safe, relaxed, and open to experiencing pleasure.
I love that. It's about making a space where you can truly let go and enjoy yourself.
And by challenging those scripts, embracing these tools, you can start rewriting your own story about female orgasm.
That's beautiful. It's about reclaiming your pleasure, defining what feels good on your own terms.
Exactly. It's about understanding that every woman's experience is valid. No one-size-fits-all approach to this.
This is all so insightful. I'm ready for more.
Me too.
Huh?
Let's dive deeper into this fascinating idea of responsive desire next. It's wild, right, how these scripts about female sexuality really get in our heads.
Totally. It's like this invisible pressure to experience desire a certain way.
And when we don't, we start thinking something's wrong with us.
Exactly. It can really mess you up mentally.
One of the sources actually dives into how these scripts play out in our brains.
Ooh, brain stuff. I'm ready.
Think of it like this. Your brain has this map of what sex is supposed to be like.
A sex map. Okay, I'm following.
And it's built from all the messages you've absorbed over the years, from culture, media, even your own experiences. It tells you what to expect, how to act, what's normal.
But what happens when real life doesn't match that map?
Things get tricky. Instead of questioning the map itself, we try to force our experiences to fit it.
So we end up feeling like we're broken or inadequate, even if what we're experiencing is totally natural.
Exactly. And that's when those negative meta-emotions can spiral.
Right, meta-emotions. Remind me what that means again.
It's basically feelings about our feelings. So, say you don't orgasm during intercourse. You might feel frustrated. That's the initial feeling. But then you might feel ashamed or embarrassed for feeling frustrated in the first place.
Okay, I get it. And those meta-emotions just make the whole experience worse.
Big time. They add this layer of judgment, making it way harder to relax and actually enjoy yourself.
Double whammy of bad vibes.
One source had this anecdote about a woman who mainly learned about sex from watching porn. She went into it thinking it should be easy to orgasm, especially from clitoral stimulation.
Oh, I see where this is going. Those kinds of portrayals can be so influential.
And when her real-life experience was different, she started thinking something's wrong with her, like she was broken.
It's sad how easy it is to blame ourselves.
But her experience was totally normal. It was the map she was using that was flawed, not her body.
That's so important to remember. So how do we start questioning these maps and looking at our experiences differently?
Well, the sources suggest a few things. First, recognize that these internal maps aren't the absolute truth. They're shaped by culture, not biology.
So step one is acknowledging those outside influences.
Yep. Second, become more aware of your meta-emotions. When you feel that shame or judgment about a sexual experience, try to just observe those feelings without judging them further.
Like that mindfulness we talked about, but applied to our feelings about sex.
Right on. And lastly, self-compassion is key. Instead of beating yourself up for not meeting some imaginary standard, be kind to yourself. Understand yourself.
Treat yourself with the same gentleness you'd offer a friend going through a tough time.
Exactly. And the sources emphasize this takes time. You're not going to instantly erase all those ingrained messages.
It's more about slowly shifting your perspective, building a better relationship with your sexuality over time.
You got it. Which brings us to one of the most interesting tools mentioned, emotion coaching.
Emotion coaching. We touched on it, but let's dig deeper.
It's based on this idea that if we let ourselves fully feel uncomfortable emotions, we can actually move through them faster.
So instead of pushing those feelings down, we lean into them.
Precisely. One source used this great analogy. Imagine you're helping a kid learn to walk.
You wouldn't stop them from falling, right?
Nope. You'd encourage them to keep trying, even if they stumble.
Exactly. You'd be there to support them, cheer them on.
Same with our emotions. By allowing ourselves to really feel them, Without judgment, we learn to handle them better.
So, with sex, how would this emotion coaching actually work?
Say you're feeling frustrated because you're not orgasming. Instead of ignoring it, you acknowledge it. You tell yourself, okay, I'm frustrated right now, and that's okay. It's just a feeling.
You're not trying to change it, just letting it be there.
Exactly. Then you might notice where you feel that frustration in your body. Maybe it's tightness in your chest or your jaws clenched.
And just by noticing those physical sensations, you can start to release some of that tension.
You got it. It's about making space for that emotion to move through you.
I like that. And this reminds me of spontaneous desire versus responsive desire.
Glad you brought that up. One source uses this awesome analogy to describe how desire works, comparing it to birds flying towards a magnetic pole.
Bird analogy, I'm in. Tell me more.
Imagine your brain has all these motivational systems, like a flock of birds.
Each bird represents a different part of desire.
Exactly. Some might be drawn to pleasure, others to connection, others to excitement, and so on.
So spontaneous desire is like all those birds flying to the same magnetic pole at once.
A perfect way to put it. But for many women, it's not that simple.
So responsive desire is more like the birds flying in different directions, responding to different things in the moment.
That's it. And that's completely normal. It means your desire is influenced by the situation, by stimulation, by your emotional state at that time.
So instead of trying to force all those birds to fly the same way, we can appreciate the beauty of their individual flight patterns.
I love that image. It captures responsive desire perfectly. There's no one right way for desire to work.
It's about creating an environment where all those birds feel safe to fly freely.
Beautifully said. And that's the key. Creating a sex-positive context for yourself and your partner.
I'd love to hear more about how that looks in real life.
The sources are full of ideas. Mindfulness practices, communication strategies, even simple things like setting the mood.
So creating a space where you feel comfortable, relaxed, and open to pleasure.
Absolutely. And it's about letting go of judgment, embracing curiosity.
What if someone's feeling stuck, though? Any steps they can take to get into that more sex-positive mindset?
One powerful suggestion is to start paying attention to your internal dialogue.
Become aware of those critical thoughts that might be holding you back.
Exactly. And then challenge those thoughts. Ask yourself, is this really true? Where did this belief come from? Is it helping me?
It's about questioning those old messages and swapping them for something more positive and affirming.
You got it. Another tip, focus on what you do enjoy instead of what you don't.
So instead of dwelling on not always orgasming from penetration, explore other ways to experience pleasure.
Exactly. Give yourself permission to enjoy your body. Experiment.
So empowering. It's about reclaiming your pleasure and discovering what feels good for you.
And remember, it's okay to ask for what you need. Talk openly with your partner about what feels good and what doesn't.
Communication is so important in any relationship, but especially when it comes to sex.
Couldn't agree more. And don't be afraid to experiment. Try new things, explore different positions, maybe try some toys.
It's all about figuring out what works for you and your partner.
And one last thought on creating a sex-positive context. Be kind to yourself. Sex isn't a performance, it's an exploration.
I love that. It's about letting go of that pressure to perform and just enjoy the experience.
And by approaching it with curiosity and playfulness, you might be surprised by what you discover.
This conversation has been so insightful. I've learned so much about female orgasm, and more importantly, I feel empowered to rewrite my own story about pleasure.
That's wonderful to hear. And remember, this is an ongoing process.
Pete?
Keep exploring, experimenting, and above all, be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up, what's the one thing you hope our listener takes away from this deep dive?
That's a tough one. But if I had to choose, it'd be this. What if you approached your sexuality with curiosity and playfulness instead of judgment? What new possibilities could open up if you let go of those old scripts and allowed yourself to experience pleasure on your own terms?
That's such a beautiful and thought-provoking question. I can already feel a shift in my own perspective.
And remember, it's not just about personal change. It's about challenging those cultural norms that restrict women's sexual expression.
Yes. It's about creating a world where women feel free to explore their sexuality without shame or judgment.
One of the sources even touches on how these negative messages can impact women's health care.
Oh, that's a crucial point. What did the sources say about that?
There's a story about a woman who uses a wheelchair. She was having pain during penetration, and her doctor had never even mentioned that there might be treatments available.
Wait, seriously? Why wouldn't the doctor tell her that?
It's hard to say for sure, But the source suggests it might have been because the doctor was uncomfortable talking about sex with a young woman with disability.
That's so disheartening. It just shows how these societal biases can have real consequences.
It underscores how important it is to advocate for yourself, find healthcare providers who are sex positive and supportive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about finding doctors who will truly listen to you and give you accurate, unbiased information.
And remember, you deserve a satisfying sex life, no matter your age, ability, or relationship status.
You said it. Pleasure is a basic human right.
And it's something to be celebrated, not shamed.
I'm so grateful for all these sources you've shared. They've given us so much to think about.
It's been a pleasure diving into this with you. And to our listener, I hope you feel empowered to continue your own exploration of female orgasm. Trust yourself, embrace your desires, and never stop exploring the amazing world of pleasure out there.
Beautifully said. And remember, everyone, pleasure is a journey, not a destination. Savor every step of the way.
Wow, yeah. That really gets you thinking, doesn't it? I'm already looking at things a little differently.
It's amazing what happens when we start to really tune into ourselves,
Yeah.
Peel back those layers of what we've been told and just discover.
It feels like we've covered so much in this deep dive. The science, the clitoris, context, meta-emotions, all those tools for change.
And we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore when it comes to female sexuality. It's a vast landscape.
One thing that really hit home for me was that discussion about responsive desire. It's a game changer, for sure. Realizing that desire doesn't have to be like this sudden lightning bolt. It can come and go, and that's perfectly okay.
It really takes the pressure off, right? Instead of waiting for that aha moment, we can just be open to the idea that desire can be sparked in all sorts of ways.
Absolutely. It's about being present, noticing those subtle cues, those little moments of connection and intimacy that can build into something truly special.
Speaking of connection, one of the sources talked about how important communication is for creating a sex-positive space.
Oh, communication is crucial, especially with your partner. Being open and honest, that's the foundation.
What were some of the communication tips from the sources? Like, how do we actually talk about this stuff?
Well, the first thing is to create a space where you both feel safe, comfortable, able to express yourselves without judgment.
I get that. It's tough to be vulnerable if you're worried about being criticized or feeling insecure.
Exactly. So start by setting the tone. Let your partner know you want to create this space of openness where you can both explore and share.
So maybe saying something like, hey, I want us to feel really good about talking about sex, about what feels good for each of us.
That's a perfect way to open the door. And remember, it's a two-way street. It's not just about you expressing your needs, but also truly listening to your partner.
What about when you and your partner have different levels of desire or different things you enjoy? How do you navigate that?
That's where empathy and compromise are so important. It's about trying to see things from their perspective, even if it's different from yours.
I think that's one of the biggest lessons from all this. There's no right way to experience sex or desire. Everyone's different, and that's something to celebrate.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so exciting. There's always something new to discover, new ways to connect, new depths of pleasure to explore together.
I'm so glad we got to explore all this. I feel like I have a whole new toolbox and a new way of looking at things.
It's been wonderful sharing this journey with you. And to our listener, I hope you feel empowered to keep exploring, keep discovering, trust yourself, embrace your desires, and never stop exploring the incredible world of pleasure that's waiting for you.
That's beautifully said. And remember, everyone, pleasure is a journey, not a destination. Enjoy every single step.